Come on now, of course I returned. Anyways, look, so what we're going to be talking about is another paradox of the old, sort of, right? Where it's like, sort of old gen debaters who are still on Discord, because if you're really deep, some of the old gen, like, debating's been going on for almost 4 years. Right, almost like, or at least the Discord debating in the particular genre that we do it, right? And some of these guys have been here for a breaking 10 years. So first we have like Piano. Piano's been here for like 10, almost like 10, almost like 11 years. Like, that guy's been on Discord longer than like some people have been alive. Now, it's like, it's one thing to be in the community. Being in the community in general is fine, right? However, it's like, being in the community for that long and actively debating for most of it is like, damn, why aren't you tier one? And the reason is, and it's something that I've said before, it's like simply just debating more than everyone else is never going to make you a better debater if you have no efficiency in your madness, if you get what I mean. Now, again, sometimes it's actually fine whenever I see like people who've been on the app for a long time, they're just on here on occasion, they're really chill about it. So it's like, it's not like they're on some loser shit whenever you see them like on the app. But then there's always that one person, there's always that like one freak who's like, oh my god, you guys suck, man. Oh my god, Trini's the GOAT. And the person I'm talking about is like very obvious. So it's literally Tigger. So there's this one dude, I know nobody knows who he is, and for good reason. In fact, I sort of envy all of the people who don't know who that guy is. Literally, he's just this guy in the old gen, and nobody really knows what does Tigger actually debate, right? All we know is that he's just like really stupid. All of this stuff he says simply just has no foundation towards it. You'll notice that he's one of those debaters, he takes the like airflame archetype, where instead of actually making arguments, he decides, haha, how about instead of that, I try and yell at my opponent, right? And then hopefully the crowd will be convinced that I won the debate. It's like, woo, great job, Tigger. I've never thought of that one before. Thank you, King, right? But he's one of those archetype of debaters. But look, it's like every single time I post a tier list, they always like they always ask me, oh my god, Shinra, why is Aeroflame so low? Why are all of these guys so low? Look at their rhetoric. Their rhetoric is so impressive, and it's like, okay, well, maybe we just are thinking of different things whenever we say rhetoric. Typically, whenever I say rhetoric, I'm just saying that this person, not only do they have the ability to create a good argument, but their presentation of this good argument is in such a way in which both the audience and the opponent is able to understand it quite simply. So rhetoric could also play like you'll be able to tell when somebody's rhetoric is good whenever they're able to make a very, very complicated subject matter look extremely easy to understand, right? And by making it extremely easy to understand, then it's like you also have the added benefit of, oh yeah, if your opponent still doesn't understand it, they make them look like an idiot. But rhetoric, all in all, I just take it to be how convincing you are. Now, people on this app are convinced by a variety of different things. Some people are convinced by good arguments, right? Other people are convinced by like what's it called? Other people are convinced by people yelling. So maybe I can like also sort of grant that rhetoric may be the most important debate stat, right? In the sense that for you to have, at least under my metric, for you to have good rhetoric, you also need to have good arguments, because the sort of thing is like whenever I know people also say this about Cinta too. Now I see like there's an uprising of people trying pull an infinity on divinity, where they're like, oh my god, man, divinity's so bad, man. Like, oh my god, he doesn't even make arguments. And it's like, damn, I never knew that would happen to divinity. Divinity used to be the most glazed at a certain point, right? But it's like, literally, it's like, some people on this app, they're always just very, very convinced by whoever's like talking the loudest. And it's like, look, okay, maybe you come on the app, to be listening to other people get yelled at. Maybe like that's what you enjoy. But typically, I know most people who have an intelligence level of above like 0, right? They are entertained by that type of stuff, and they actually want to learn about the subject matter that is being spoken of, right? So again, it's like, I never understand the whole concept of like actually being convinced by that type of thing. I'm never personally convinced by that type of thing, but to each their own, right? So whenever people like typically try and like say, oh my god, but he won consensus, it's like, look, there comes a certain point when consensus just stops being valuable, right? So it's like, Literally, for example, everyone there is being convinced by the things you're saying, and the reason why they're being convinced by the things you're saying is because you're funnier than your opponent, and because you're funnier, they don't actually listen to the things you're saying. They're just listening to how you present it, and it's like, well, yeah, maybe, right, that counts as a win under some like really idiotic metric, right? But it's like, if you want to actually determine whose sort of argument had more substance, whose sort of arguments held up better, and you have actual coherent intellectual virtues, then it's like, that's the sort of standard that you need to abandon. So whenever people ask me why I think Aeroflame is really bad, why I think Trini is really bad, it's like sort of usually they just seems as if they're focusing too much on theatrics, right? I'm focusing on, haha, I'm going to make you look stupid by insulting you a whole bunch, right? Or I know Aero does that one thing where he starts yelling at his opponent a bunch, and it's like, dude, I don't know how people are convinced by that, right? And it's like, look, sort of, is there sort of dilemma where it's like, oh my god, well, we just have completely two different understandings of rhetoric, so it's like it makes sort of debate conversations very, very arbitrary. But it's like, look, whenever people tell me Trini, Seth, Eric particularly, but it's not actually being Eric particularly now, it's more so becoming more Trini based. So whenever I post my tier list, people are like, people at least in one server I know, right, which is full of old gen people, always ask me, why is Trini so low? And I'm like, well, Trini, like, here's all the sort of stupid stuff that Trini has said that lower tier debaters who I've encountered who are supposed to be worse than Trini and who I personally consider to be really stupid, right? Those are the sort of things that I know from watching them debate they wouldn't say, right? So for example, with Parrot, you have Parrot saying knowledge is the act of knowing things, and it's like, okay, good job, mate, you really told me a lot there. Knowledge is the act of knowing. Well fucking done, mate. And it's like, look, those are the sort of idiotic sort of like statements where it's like, if Smoothie said what Parrot was saying in his debate against Trini, right, Smoothie'd be laughed at, right? If what's it called? If literally anybody else who wasn't Trini, right, and who wasn't Para said the stuff that Trini and Para were saying, right, then they'd be laughed at, right? I watched the Trini debate back, and Trini sort of said something like really stupid. So he said something like, oh yeah, well, Cognito, first it was like in his Nathan Sweden debate when he was talking about the interaction problem, and he said, oh well, basically he doesn't understand how something material can interact with the immaterial, because to be immaterial means you have to be causally like efficacious, or you are just causally inert, I should say, right? And it's like, well, one, that isn't an entailment of something being immaterial at all, right? But so that already shows just a textbook level confusion from Trini. And it's like, two, when Nathan Sweden just gave him clarity on the entire point of what like immaterial means, which is just non-slack, or which is just something that isn't spatial temporal, right? Trini just seemed kind of stun-locked, and then he immediately sort of moved on to omnipotence paradoxes, and it's like, do people actually still hold to that? Like, people actually still hold to like to those sort of things? It's like, really, the sort of views that Trini was trying to purport in his debate against Nathan Sweden were just really embarrassing. I don't know how anyone came up with the impression that he won that debate. Now, that isn't to say that like Nathan Sweden did well as well. It's like, well, no, Nathan Sweden did really bad. It's like, how didn't he just immediately swat down the interaction problem point that Trini was trying to put forth? Right, by simply just explaining what immaterial meant to the guy properly, right? Because maybe Trini was unclear, maybe that's like sort of Nathan Sweden's fault as well. And it's like, look, I have no good reason to like, and people sort of like, they sort of like, they have this preconceived notion of Trini, and they just can't get out of their head. So because they have that preconceived notion of Trini, it's like, what's it called? They literally do anything to preserve the agenda. So the first sort of thing I heard whenever I made my Trini video in the past was like, oh, you're just mad Trini beat you in a debate. And it's like, well, that isn't true, because I've never even debated Trini, right? And it's like, oh, well, you're just mad that in the past you were really bad and Trini bullied you. And it's like, well, no, because one, not only have I never spoken to Trini, but two, the sort of people who quote unquote used to beat me up all the time when I was bad was like people like Kentai, people like Astro, right? Who do like constantly just like call me stupid because of the stupid stuff I was saying. And it's like, okay, well, I've never really interacted with Trini. The only sort of thing that I've interacted with is the recordings of Trini, right? And people always like to tell me, oh, well, Trini beat this guy, Trini beat that guy, da 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 da. But this is the sort of thing where I can at least say that, oh yeah, I'll give Trini some leeway, right? In the sense that, yeah, okay, so because all of his debates were from back then, none of his quote-unquote feats can really be verified. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if none of his feats can be verified, and the sort of good performances he's supposed to have is in his debate against Seth, which he lost quite vehemently, right? Then how am I supposed to be convinced that he's good? Why should I stop calling him bad because of some performance that I can't really verify? It's like, those sort of like, arguments or those sort of like motivations always seem very odd to me. They always seem very like, you always like, because think about it, you wouldn't do that for any other debater, and like and everyone knows that for certain. It's like if for example Folks, right? Folks was debating, and you saw Folks do really badly in all of the debates he has on YouTube, but supposedly there's a rumor that he's been doing really good in all of these debates that we've never seen before, right? And it's like, okay, well, what's it called? Like we wouldn't extend that same sort of like standard to Folks, right? And the reason being is because we typically base whether or not somebody is good or not off of what we've seen. Now this is the same sort of thing with Alcona, right? Now I said Alcona is really bad, not only due to the fact that he thought like was not only due to the fact that like he in his debate against like Jester, it was just really bad from both of them, right? But also just from what I've seen, he's done really poorly, right? And people also from the old community seem to concur that, oh yeah, what's it called? Alcona is really bad. Da 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 da. He lost to Jester, right? But then if somebody brought up to them, oh look at all of these, like supposedly he has all of these private feats, and it's like, okay, well, if he has all of these private feats, right? Why should I care about them? I've never seen them. But when you sort of apply this same sort of similar logic to Trini, for example, and you say, why should I care about these private recordings? I've never seen them, right? I've never heard of them. I probably will never get them anyways, right? So why should I even care, right? And then you notice that it turns into a whole bunch of special pleading, right? Where they're like, oh my God, no, but you need to make an exception for Trini, because Trini is the GOAT, man. And it's like, you know, I really, really, really want to be convinced that old community debaters are not as bad as not only like as not only the recordings portray them to be, but also like just general showings of them in general. So like look at Trini versus NSYNC. You'll notice that there isn't any sort of substance there, at least from what I've seen, aside from Trini yelling at NSYNC, right? Now, again, it's like, okay, well, yeah, he yelled at him, haha, massive own moment, right? Where he like yelled at him, he made him look really dumb by yelling at him, I think, maybe. It's like, okay, well, now that all the yelling is said and done, it's like, okay, well, there's not really anything that I can use or I can point at. And if somebody got into an argument with me, it's like, well, why is Trini good, right? There's not really anything I can say aside from, oh my God, he has all of these rumors. And if you really want to make an accurate tier list, your tier list can be based off of rumors, right? So again, that just covers the sort of motivations I have towards why I don't think Trini is very good. It's just like, there's no really good reason that I've been given to consider Trini good. The sort of people who are saying Trini is good, right? And I know Midtop has said like, this who's like, I don't know, nobody who's like watching this video really know him, right? But you notice that people like Midtop, for example, right? He will say, oh yeah, I'm being really ignorant, right? And it's like, okay, well, maybe I am ignorant, right? Maybe all of my takes about Trini are really stupid. But the issue is, we will never know that until new Trini recordings come forth. But until then, I'll keep ranking them how I always have. You know, the law won't really change that much. But yeah, that's literally it. There's nothing more I need to say about the matter, really. It's like, I hope in future someone can provide me a Trini recording that makes me eat my words really badly, because from what I've seen, the Ask Yourself recording was just sort of a semantic dispute at the end of the day, where Ask Yourself was like, oh yeah, do you disagree with me? And then Trini was like, no, I don't really disagree, da 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 da. The Ask Yourself recording, I don't know, maybe I'll look at it later, but it's like, hopefully somebody will make me eat my words eventually, but until then, the sort of debate takes I have about Trini will stand. Now, the other people in my comments who always are like, oh my god, Trini's really bad. It's like, look, Trini is not bad by any means, right? He's not as if he's really, really stupid. So like, Noodles oh, that's a good one. Trini versus Noodles, right? That's like, supposedly, now this is what I've heard, that Trini was losing to Noodles until Noodles made like a really bad blunder. And it's like, okay, well, if that is true, then we need to start having some conversations, because Noodles is really, really bad. And the reason why I say this is because Noodles is like saying stuff about how you can't use induction because induction justifies racism. And it's like, okay, dude. So if that is true, we need to start having some serious conversations. That's literally all I have to say about the matter. If you like the video, please remember to like and subscribe. This has been General, and I'm out.